Inga mana engari o tira koutou katoa, nā mihi mahana kia koutou, no mai, haere mai, piki mai, kaki mai. Kia ora everyone. Well, how fabulous to see our chamber full with all our fabulous young people and our principals. How lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining us today for this very important council meeting. Could we start with a karakia, and I'll hand over to Councillor Teo Skipworth or Councillor Heki.
A mea tuatai tuku mihi ki ngā rangatahi kua tama nei tēnei wainga nui a tātou. Nā reire, nā manuhiri o te rohe o here taunga, tēnei te mihi ki a tātou nau mai, haere mai, a whakatau mai. A me timata tātou i te karakia, a muri tērā o tātou nei waiata he honori. Esteemed guests from our community and the leaders of tomorrow, welcome to your house, to your chamber. We'll start off with some words of wisdom to the God Almighty, and we'll sing He Honore. E no tātou. E te atu e tuku mihi ki a koe tēnei wā i te wā. A purua he kaupapa i wainga nui a tātou. Nā te atua he manaki, nā te atua he tiaki. E te atua he tuku mihi ki a koe hei whakamoimisi. A tātou nei whānau e noho i te kāinga. E noho ana i te whare tūroro, te whare hōhepara, me ngā whare oranga hoki. Nā reira e pā, e tuku mihi ki a koe, i ngā wāka tō, tūturi whati whakamaua ki a tīna, haume e hui e, tāi. He honore.
Thank you, Councillor Henry Heki. That was lovely, and thank you everybody for that beautiful waiata. We have two leave of absence, one for Councillor Jessup, already been granted, and one for Councillor Watkins. Do we have any other requests for leave of absence, councillors? Councillor Heki? No? No, I'm happy to move from the chair. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Councillor Sholem, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Conflicts of interest. Councillors, will we just address them through our agenda today in the usual way as we come to them? The confirmation of minutes, that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 8th of August 2024 be confirmed as an accurate record. Any amendments, changes to those minutes? Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Dixon, second. Councillor Kerr. No further comments. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Moving now to the Mayor's verbal update for the month, and can I just acknowledge, when I read down this huge list of everything that's been going on in the fabulous Heretaunga Hastings, I thank all of you who have helped and been part of all these amazing activities. So yes, August, September has been an exceptionally busy time, and many activities and community events we have all enjoyed in our beautiful place. There has been many visits from the Crown working with the new government, and we had a special meeting with Minister Mark Mitchell and the MP Katie Nimmin, and that was about managing our roading and our rebuild. I attended the National Science and Technology Roadshow Trust with the schools at Hastings Intermediate, and it's great to see that Technology Roadshow still being funded and still showing kids about science. It was fabulous. Toitū Te Reo National Te Reo Māori Symposium, and what an amazing 2 days. It's a time I'll never forget, and exciting to think that the team will be leading it again next November. It was incredibly first class, well run ever event that we've had here, and to see the inspirational lineup of guest speakers, the incredible connection with our community who came out and enjoyed it, the variety performance, concert, everything in Te Reo Māori. How amazing that 2 days was. Incredible mahi, and thank you to Baden Barber, our chair of Ngāti Kahungunu, and Dr. Jeremy McLeod for his incredible hard mahi, and also Tracy Tuamesivi. They did an incredible job. We had the opening ceremony for Cadenza, which was a 2-day secondary school choir festival held in Toitū, and always uplifting and fabulous to be hosting schools from across the Lower North Island. The Pātoka Community Afternoon Tea was a presentation of the civic honour, and thank you to councillors who attended that. We saw incredible leadership through the cyclone from the Pātoka community, and it was wonderful to present them with their civic honour. We had the Orange Sky mobile laundry for homeless launch, and how special that is. If you drive down Market Street, you'll see a mobile laundry. Who would have thought? So that means that our most vulnerable have a place to wash and clean their clothes, and it's a very, very special thing. Swing by and have a look at it. The Top Line Training Academy, and thanks to Councillor Teo Skipworth, Councillor Jessup and Councillor Henry for attending the graduation from Top Line. We had the preview and tasting for the Hawke's Bay wine auction. Thank you, Councillor Corbyn, for attending. And thank you to Councillor Dixon and Councillor Fowler for joining me for the legendary Hamilton Logan's funeral, with probably about 500 people in Toitū. Beautiful Civic Honours Awards this year, and to acknowledge all those recipients that worked, all our family and leaders that helped us through Cyclone Gabrielle. Was a very, very special Civic Honours Awards this year. We had the reopening of the family store for the Salvation Army, and Councillor Jessup attended on my behalf. And it's great to think this new store on the other side of the road in our stunning Storford is now up and running with a purpose-built store. We had the opening of Tongan Language Week, and thank you for Councillor Hickey for joining me. A very, very special event for our Tongan community. Just want to acknowledge everybody who attended that Local Government New Zealand conference, chairs, the mayors, regional chairs, and it was a really, really good conference. We had the opening of a very special place at the old Tomato Mushrooms called Tomato Art Farm in Havelock North, and Councillor Sholem and Councillor Fowler came with me. And what a neat place that is. And Councillor Apatu, what a great place. If anyone wants to have a look at the great art going on at the old Tomato Mushrooms, check it out. It's a very, very cool place. The Flaxmere Community Patrol AGM was attended by Councillor Kelly Jessup. And can I just acknowledge the Chinese delegations? We've had 2 this month with Councillor Watkins. There has been official Flaxmere street openings on the 24th for a beautiful new roads called Kibblewhite Road, Pauline Way, Tuvati Street and Ratima Avenue. And how cool those new streets are. And we had, how many did we have, Nigel? A couple of hundred people? A couple of hundred people down there, and how special that was. Great Youth Council afternoon tea. Always love sharing your views, understanding your the important mahi that you're doing and the contribution you make to our district, and always enjoy those coming together times to address some of our district's large challenges. Thank you. Hastings City Business Association Celebration Awards, and can I acknowledge our business community? These are tough times, there's no question about it. And to be able to celebrate our business community in both our centres, but this was the Hastings City Business Awards. It was an exceptional night, and it was amazing to recognise those people who are working above and beyond to keep their businesses through a very challenging economic time. The Honourable David Seymour had a community visit here, which both the Chief and I attended. Our Hawke's Bay Cancer Society Daffodil Day appeal, thanks to Councillors Fowler, Harvey, Teo Skipworth, Dixon, Butto and Sholem for collecting for Cancer Society. Councillor Dixon and I attended the new Hiritonga Croquet Club opening. How special it was. It was the first time we saw Hiritonga Hastings written up there, so that was very cool. And what a neat clubhouse, and our council was able to contribute to that opening quite some time ago. And we attended Kingi Tu Haitia's tangi, and with Councillor Kerr, Petera, and also Councillor Teo Skipworth and Councillor Jessup, and that was a special time, and Councillor Hickey. Sorry, Henry. And what an amazing experience that was for me. It's, once again, is one of those times that will go down in my memory of being, to be honoured, to be in a position to recognise such an incredible leader. And it was a very, very special time to be able to go to Tūranga Waiwai for the tangi. The EIT Ideas School, we had a pop-up exhibition at Arts in Hiritonga, attended by Councillor Fowler. We've held 2 citizenship ceremonies in here in the last month with about 70 new citizens. We've had the Hawke's Bay Tourism 2024 Fork Legend Best of Wine and Tourism, and attended by Councillor Butto. Building Futures Training Centre official opening with Councillor Harvey and the Chief and myself, and this amazing place down in Iron Gate where our young people can be trained in many of the trades, but largely construction, and what a great asset that is to our district. Our Friends of the Hastings Library AGM, attended by Councillor Sholem. A Hawke's Bay Spring Carnival Racing, attended by Councillor Dixon. And I presented at Attains, which is the Hawke's Bay Gisborne regional meeting for accountants and tax, talking about projects in Hastings, what has gone and what is coming, and our economic well-being. The opening of the Young Achievers photographic exhibition, and I notice we've got a couple of those recipients here today, and that is always very special, put on by the Lions Club, and this year held at Lindisfarne College. We had a visit from Mayor Max Baxter and the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, and looking at ways that we can get more from the Mayor's Task Force. At the moment, there's $6 million in that government fund, and we need to be accessing more for Hiritonga Hastings, so we've had some very good meetings about what we can do next. We had the Developers Forum, and we had Councillor Corbyn, and we've had Councillor Harvey attend that in Napier. We joined with Napier to work with our developers and our planners and our construction industry to enable and make sure that we're all working together. Thank you for Councillor Fowler attending Karen Stanter's 90 years of being in Hastings, and that was a pretty cool achievement, and the changes, and hearing the changes they had seen of Hastings City over there, 90 years of being here. We had the pohiri for our tuia at Wharirangi Marae with Councillor Upperton, Councillor Jessup, and how special that was with our tuia who were there on that occasion with tuia from around Aotearoa, and we had a wonderful pohiri for them. Can I just acknowledge everybody, Councillor Sholem, who attended the Hawke's Bay Wine Auction, Councillor Corbyn. Amazing to think that $335,000 was raised this year for our hospice. The Photo Fest is still going on in town. How cool is that Photo Fest? And the highlight for me was seeing some of our IHC folks from all around New Zealand exhibiting in the Photo Fest. What a great way to use our laneway at Toi Toi. We had the 150th anniversary for the Hawke's Bay branch of the Royal Society. Councillor Fowler attended that. And the Hawke's Bay Hospitality Awards. They're a great bunch to be out celebrating there. And it'd be fair to say that they've had a pretty tough couple of years, from COVID to cyclones to economic crisis. Been really hard on the hospo, so it was amazing to celebrate with them. We had a wonderful visit from Frimley School to hear about civics and hear about what everybody does. All their leaders, their tamariki came in and they went away. They'd had afternoon tea in the Mayor's office and very excited, and I hope that they'll all be councillors one day. We had a fantastic meeting last week with the Honourable, no, not the Honourable, a chairman. Is he still? Yeah. Simon Bridges, who's now the chair of NZTA, and looking at how we can get more funding for our recovery. The Blossom Festival and Parade, 10,000 people lined our streets on Saturday, and what an incredible day that was. Amazing feedback, and I think the 10 to 4 worked really well. And with Councillor Teo Skipworth, Councillor Sholom and Councillor Monteperto Hendry, we all did the women's part of the try, just a part, on Sunday, and how cool that was. And I was thrilled to attend the Watties celebration of 90 years in our city, providing employment for our people, 900 staff, and with whānau, 1,900 people at the Watties birthday at our Tomona showgrounds. What a great event. We had the Datacom office opening last week with 29 new professionals in the tech industry, new tech hub in our city. And yesterday, we had the main freight turning of the sod and a new distribution hub in Irongate. And just for your information, we thought we had 30 years supply of industrially zoned land in Irongate. We've had 10 years supply. We only have 17 hectares left, and that's how fast our district is growing. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to move from the chair. That is accepted. Seconded by Councillor Sholom. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Right, now we move on to our Youth Council representation and membership on council committees. Mr. Craig Cameron, but I'm going to invite our Youth Council perhaps to do your presentation first, or would you rather Mr. Cameron speak to the paper first? Over to you. Yes, absolutely. Welcome to you, Mr. Cameron, if you'd like to take us through this paper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been a while since I've been called Mr. Cameron like that, so. I'll take the paper as read, Madam Chair. The Youth Council will be coming up, led by Mr. Proctor, who's the chair of the committee, Youth Council, just to talk to the matter. The members will then assist me to answer questions of clarification. You may not have noticed that my expertise in this field sort of finished over 30 years ago. I'd just like to make one comment. There's been quite a bit of media commentary on this, and I've been answering questions. And to our knowledge, we thought this was new territory for council, but a colleague of mine pointed out that she was on the Youth Council 25 years ago and became chair of the Youth Council, Julia Hayden Carr. And she was on council committees and being remunerated for doing so. And Julia's gone on to have a very distinguished career, both working in government departments and in the office of the Prime Minister of the previous government. So I'd just like to stand corrected on that perception. Otherwise, take the paper as read and look forward to hearing from Mr. Proctor.
Thank you, and if I could now invite our Youth Council representatives, and it's wonderful to have our schools represented here today. We have David Cornan from Lindisfarne and Paula Ferrick. Welcome, lovely to have you here. And we have the new principal of Iona College, Nicole Valente. Lovely to have you here, Nicole. We also have Havelock High School Deputy Principal Sam Wallace. Sam, welcome Sam, lovely to have you here. And Julie, I saw her, Julie Peterson from Woodford. She's just gone out, but she's been here too. And we have our Te Whatu Ora Rangatahi advisors. Have we got you here? Yes, welcome. Te Ahoho Jordan and Kanak Hiremaya. You're both here, how lovely. And now we'll invite you up. And just a bit of an overview from me. As I said, I meet regularly with our youth council, usually once a month, for afternoon tea, and they go through their strategic plan and their annual plan and highlight what they're working on and highlight where we are aligning and the work we do together. And they said to me this in our last meeting that they would like to raise what's really important to them and for them to have voting rights on the subcommittees and standing committees. And so they also talked about the opportunity and why they would want to have the voting rights. They have been very diligent sitting on our subcommittees now, since that was introduced a few years ago, but the opportunity to take it one step forward and actually making sure that their vote counts and making sure they bring in the youth voice to the table was really, really important for them. So I suggested that they meet with you informally and present to you what their thoughts were around and the reasons for around having voting rights on both the subcommittees and the standing committees. And we had that informal meeting and decided to bring a paper, as you agreed to today, which is looking at should there be change. Now, there can only be a change for a year, because every triennium a new council sets the direction for the framework of committees. And there's been many iterations of different working parties, committees in the past. But at the moment we have our subcommittees, our two standing committees in our council. So it is looking at how best we get the youth voice represented to the top table. And this is what we're here to discuss today. Kia ora. Very warm welcome. We've got Keaton, we've got Chris, and Emma. Oh, we've got the whole team. Lovely. Welcome, Chris, the Chair of the Youth Council, and could I invite you to introduce your team here today?
Thank you, Your Worship, councillors, council staff, and the members of the community who've turned out to support us. The team here today is, would you like to introduce yourselves? We'll go around.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Lily Petrie and I'm a second year youth councillor.
Kia ora, ko Bowen Kirika Stefa Te Kuingoa. I'm a third year youth councillor and the current deputy chair.
Kia ora everyone, I'm Swelling Kaur and I'm a second year youth councillor. I'm Isabella and second year youth councillor.
Kia ora, I'm Chris. It's my privilege to serve as chair of the 2024 Hastings Youth Council.
Kia ora, my name's Keaton. I'm here today presenting with Chris. Tēnā koutou katoa. As I've said, my name is Keaton.
My name is Chris.
And we stand before you today as members of the Hastings Youth Council, representing the voice of rangatahi in our district.
One of the things we're most proud of as rangatahi in this district is that we've always been a leader in youth engagement. And we found out recently that what we're debating today actually occurred in the year 2000 and in that time frame already, which was pretty exciting for us to find out. And we now have an opportunity to build on that legacy and to be the first again by becoming the first in the country to grant voting rights to youth council members on council subcommittees. We could be making history today.
Now, as a district with a significant youth population, it is essential that we embrace change and remain ahead of the curve. Granting voting rights to youth council members is only the next logical step in our journey for progressive and inclusive governance. None of us have to be here today, but we choose to because we believe in something that is greater than ourselves. We know the importance of youth advocacy. We know the importance of youth engagement in our democratic institutions. And we know the consistent low voter turnout for local government elections. The Youth Council plans to do something about that. We've been members of council subcommittees since 2020. The precedent already exists with other unelected members that provide subject expertise with voting rights. We believe we'd be doing youth in this community a disservice if we were not to bring this proposal forward.
We would now like to address some of the potential concerns that were raised recently in the media. The first being remuneration. We want to make it perfectly clear that our initial proposal was not to be remunerated. We simply want to help solve a long-standing issue of rangatahi disengagement and low voter turnout. That has been our position from the outset. However, in the meantime, council officers informed us that not being remunerated would be against council values, a position we respect. That decision is now ultimately before you, the councillors of Heretaunga Hastings. It is no longer up to us.
Something that we'd like to clarify is that granting voting rights to youth council representatives is not about disrupting the role of our elected officials. It's about enriching the decision-making process with unique insights and nuanced perspectives that only our youth can offer. In our view, this move poses no threat to governance structures. In fact, we have consulted with council officers who have confirmed that this change is both legally permissible and is straightforward to implement.
Our advocacy for voting rights reflects our responsibility as youth council members to represent rangatahi in this community. This change aligns with Goal 3 of the adopted Hastings Youth Strategy, which includes consultation of over 1,000 young people in this district. It focuses on empowering young people in decision-making processes. Goal 3, which was adopted by you, the council, in 2021, is about ensuring that rangatahi have a real voice in shaping the direction of our district, recognising that the perspectives of young people are essential in creating policies and governance that reflects the needs and aspirations of the entire community. It's a commitment to meaningful youth engagement, not just consultation.
Rangatahi currently make up nearly half the population in areas like Flaxmere. Their voices must be heard, not just as participants, but as active decision makers. We are asking for the chance to contribute meaningfully to the decisions that impact our generation and those to come. This is not about symbolic recognition. It is about making sure that the perspectives of our young people today, who bear the long-term consequences that are made in this room, have a tangible influence.
Our approach is backed by a strong network of support, and we will benefit from membership of the committee's chairs. Mentorship. This mentorship will ensure that we not only meet, but exceed the expectations placed upon us. We understand the importance of this role, and we are excited to spend time to dedicate our time to what we see as a crucial next step in our political journey and the future of this district.
Now, today we have an opportunity to lead by example once again. By granting voting rights to youth council members, Hastings can set a powerful precedent for youth engagement and governance across Aotearoa. This is not about us. This is not about this youth council. In fact, it's not about this council. It's about the next 100 young councillors that will be sitting in these seats after us. This step will not only affirm our district's commitment to progressive and inclusive leadership, but also ensure that our decisions reflect the needs and aspirations from all members of our community, regardless of their age.
So ultimately, we have a decision before us today, and it is a moment in which we could make history and show that Heretaunga Hastings is once again at the forefront of innovative governance across Aotearoa, New Zealand. We ask for your support in making this important step towards a future where youth are not only heard, but empowered. We've been members of council subcommittees since 2020. The precedent already exists with other unelected members that provide subject expertise with voting rights here and which is reflected across the country. It is legally permissible and straightforward to implement. We would be doing youth in this community a disservice if we did not put forward this proposal. And finally, none of us have to be here today. But we choose to because we believe in something greater than ourselves. And that something is worth fighting for. Ngā mihi nui, thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you, team. Perhaps we'll just keep you there for a little bit. And, but I might, do you want to give some opening comments, Chief, at the moment, or wait until we move into questions?
Thank you, Worship. I'll just make one comment to reinforce the points that this is a decision for council within a triennium around what are the arrangements that you want to have around subcommittees, standing committees. I'll recall I'm in my 6th year with council. One of the very first debates in my first year at council, and the chamber was packed, but with a different demographic, was about whether Māori on Heretaunga Tākoto Noa should have the right to be on the subcommittees and standing committees with voting rights. The council at that time resolved to do that. Preceded Māori wards, which have been adopted. Youth councillors are elected through a process, as is Heretaunga Tākoto Noa. We have those people represented, those voices represented on our standing subcommittees and standing committees. So I just want to give life to the point that these are the choices for council that are yours to make, that are completely legal. And we have lots of examples of doing this. So I just wanted to frame that up in terms of reinforcing the point that that is a council decision around the way that you structure your committees.
Thank you. So we'll just move into questions first, and while we've got our team up here, that you may like to ask some questions of them or to the officers, but I'll start with Councillor Tio Skipworth, and then we'll move into debate when questions are finished.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for the presentation. It was very insightful, inspiring and admirable. So my question is, a lot of the councillors talk before a paper comes, and a lot of the questioning, which I'd also like to know, is obviously there was some public scrutiny with the media yesterday. I've got 2 questions, Your Worship, but I'll ask the first. How do you intend to handle the public scrutiny?
I think that's a very great question, and thank you. Through you, Your Worship. I think that's a great question, because as young people, it can be hard to face backlash against things, and it takes a lot to be able to process that. But I think as a youth council, we've time and time again shown that we can manage this formally and professionally, and with respect and consideration for that, or for those opinions that may be against us. And I think we embrace that with open arms, because that is democracy. It's receiving both sides of the argument and seeing how we can best approach the process forward. So yes, I think I'll finish with that.
Thank you.
If I may, Your Worship.
Yes, second question.
My second question is, a lot of the corridors, you are young and you should wait your turn, and how would you respond to a question like that?
We believe as a youth council that in this case, experience isn't necessarily about the passage of time. It's about what we can bring to the council table is very different to what other people can bring to the council table. And it is the fact that both can work together to make better decisions for this community. That's what we're excited about, and that's what we want to get on with.
Thank you. So, Your Worship, may I flag that when the time does come, that I'd like to move the motions to endorse the recommendations when the time comes.
Thank you. We'll move on with our questions. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, team, for coming here today. It's a very public forum you're standing in, advocating bravely. I have a process question. In particular, our standing committees, we have a range of workshops that are outside of the standard meetings. So it would require availability in order to be fully informed if you were to be granted voting rights. I'm interested to understand your thoughts around that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like any current member of a subcommittee, we would be required to do the exact same thing, to attend those workshops and make sure that we don't just meet but exceed the expectations that would be set upon us. And if someone is away, we'll make sure that our council officers 100% catch up and bring them up to speed to ensure that when they walk into a meeting, they're ready, they're prepared, and they can make a balanced decision.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I'd like to ask a question of the Youth Council again.
Certainly.
Thank you for your presentation. And given one of your aspirations is to increase the voter turnout of young people in particular, how is your face and your voice sitting around our subcommittee or standing committee, acknowledging it's not the council table? How will that generate an improvement?
That's a great question, thank you. And through you, Your Worship, I understand that concern. However, as we see today, although not all youth will be on those committees, right? It will be a select few from the Youth Council. We can see that youth care about this. I mean, we've got them in the audience here today, and although we're not talking about subcommittees, they've shown up either way. And I think that having Youth Council on board with those is great because we can act as a medium to go back to other youth in our district and communicate with them with ways that they might understand more coming from like-minded people and people closer to them themselves. Yeah. So I think that youth will contribute a lot to that, and I think that it's a communal thing.
Thank you.
Oh, and Chris,
If I could add something to that as well.
Yeah,
And I think, completely echoing what Keaton said, if rangatahi see themselves around the table, they'll get actually excited about what's going on. And I think that's one of the only ways that you can engage the next generation of voters in the work of local government, is that they see themselves around the table, they see themselves represented, and they know that there's someone there that represents them. And I think that would be a meaningful step to making sure that we can increase voter turnout in Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Thank you. A powerful answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hickey?
Kia ora, Your Worship, and tēnei te mihi hoki ki ngā taiohi kua tai mai nei tēnei wā, o tēnei kaupapa hei apopo. I have several pātai, and this is directed to the presenters. Do you understand what the purpose is of the Youth Council here at Hastings District Council? And are you able to articulate that to me, please?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. The purpose of the Youth Council, in my view, and in our view, is to represent rangatahi in this district in whichever form that may come. And today we're discussing a new form in which that could potentially happen. And that's all that's in front of the table. But we're here to represent rangatahi and do our best to represent our peers in this community who are in this chamber today.
So I understand that the purpose is to represent the rangatahi of your community. I also understand it's a place in which it's a platform for which you to ask questions, give your advice and support of your peers, and also be in a position to lobby, coerce, or to wānanga with other councillors at the table. Have you had that opportunity to have a wānanga with us, the councillors and the youth councillors here in this chamber?
On many occasions. Many occasions.
Yes, we have. Most recently, me and Chris came to council and presented this topic to you informally. And that was just one of the examples where we've discussed with councillors and been able to take on board their feedback and just hear everyone out before we presented formally here today. We also do love to catch up with councillors whenever we can because they are representing us as that there's their role to represent us as youth, as part of the community, and we take any opportunity to do that on board.
And yesterday I dropped into a youth council meeting and there were 3 councillors in attendance. So everybody is welcome to attend the meetings and hear what's happening on a monthly or weekly basis.
Yes, Your Worship, and I acknowledge that all councillors are invited to attend those meetings. I just have the last one, and as the Deputy Chair for Heretaunga Takoto Noa, and just going through my last previous agendas, I don't see where we actually had a workshop or this paper was presented, but I do note that rangatahi were present at the koe. That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Barrow.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an administrative question for you, Mr. Cameron. The topic today is discussing the ability of council to make these appointments. What is the process going forward from here, should this be successful, into actually making the appointments?
Through you, Madam Chair. So if council resolves the recommendations as they stand, you'll see that you would be resolving that you may appoint members of the council, youth council, to council committees. So it's may, not shall. And then that's for the triennium, as Your Worship. Apologies. Is that better? The process after that is for the triennium. Her Worship mentioned at the beginning that council, the new council coming in, establishes its governance structures going forward, and you set new delegations. You'll see resolution or recommendation C is for the Chief Executive to amend your existing delegations. So the process going forward to make appointments to committees would be, as you normally do for appointments in a council meeting, to appoint them particular people to particular committees.
Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I've got 2 questions of the Youth Council and 2 of the officers, if permitted. First question, thank you for your presentation, it was fabulous. The first one about me is trying to build up some background where this all came from and how it was promoted. I went back onto the hub and I found only 2 lots of Youth Council minutes. One was the 22nd of May and one was the 27th of March. There's no other record of this being actually discussed at Youth Council.
You?
Where would they be?
Was this in your, and this is in your long-term plan? Would you like to answer? Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. This discussion started at the beginning of the year when we create our annual plan. And this year we decided to create a Youth Council long-term plan. And we decided to include this discussion in that long-term plan. And so this discussion started at the beginning of the year where we had our initial conversations around what this may look like. And we decided to pursue it at the middle of the year, June, July, around that time.
But there's no record of it on the agenda or in any minutes, and that's my concern.
Just point of order, Your Worship, I'm just conscious this is possibly a conversation that needs to, the question is really probably to a staff question rather than a youth council question.
Thank you. Emma, would you like to answer that? Thank you.
This year we've had a change of how we've done our youth council, and we don't have so many formal meetings anymore, but we do have informal meetings, and all our minutes are saved to our hard drive, to our drive for Hastings Council, and the minutes are recorded on there. We've had many discussions about this throughout the year, and I can get you those minutes after the meeting if you prefer.
That's fine. Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification. Much appreciated. The second question is, that was an extremely well-written letter to the Mayor. Who was the author?
Thank you for that question, Councillor. Through you, Your Worship. The authors were Keaton and I. We spent many evenings together drafting it. And it was a long process, and we were very happy with the outcome of what it was.
Did you use AI?
Sorry, what was that?
Did you use AI?
Yes, we did. We think it's a very powerful tool.
There was some wording in there that was way beyond a student voice.
Not necessarily. I think by saying that you're undermining a lot of the voices in youth, I think we use ChatGPT as a tool because it's a very powerful device that allows us to emphasize key points and find possible errors in our work. However, our key message stays strong, and a key message was true to what we believe in.
Thank you for that education lesson. I had 40 years in it. Thank you. Moving on to two questions for the officers. The first one is, the voting age for both central and local government in New Zealand is currently 18 and over. What makes it legal to have a vote around the table if you're under 18?
Through Madam Chair, the legislation that's quoted in the paper is the approval under the Local Government Act that council can appoint people to its committees and subcommittees. So it comes with that legislation.
So there's no age limit?
Not for membership of committees and subcommittees, no. It's a subjective judgment as to whether you feel the people have the requisite skills to add value to the committee.
Thank you. And the final question, if I may, you stay standing, Mr. Cameron, it's for you. If these recommendations are successful, youth council members will be remunerated. Which pot of funding does that come out of, and is it budgeted or unbudgeted?
It'll come out of our operational budgets under democracy for the remuneration of councillors and elected persons and people that are attending in committees. So yes, we are budgeted for that purpose.
So it's a remuneration pot that every other councillor gets, so there'll be some deductions.
No.
Okay.
So the councillor's remuneration is set by the Remuneration Authority.
Okay.
And the council pays the remuneration per your authority gazetted decision. The remuneration of expenses for people assisting council attending at committees, that's a council decision.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey?
Thank you, and again, thank you for your presentation today. If this wasn't to go ahead, do you have any ideas of how we can actually strengthen the voice of youth?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Harvey. This is obviously one idea that we've had on how to strengthen youth representation and engagement in our democratic processes. We saw many potential avenues that we could take, one of being requesting potentially speaking rights just on subcommittees, on standing committees, I apologise. But we have seen a diverse range of options that we could pursue in trying this. This is one we've done and we're proud of it.
Thank you. And just one other question. Maybe it's two-pronged, one towards the Youth Council and one towards officers, but in 2021, we went through a representation review, which the Youth Council put in a submission that talked about a reduction in the size of representation around this table. By enabling this to happen, and I think also the publicity that we've seen over the last 24 hours, it does open up other opportunities for other groups within the community to also put themselves forward. So how do we ensure going forward that we have good, fair representation without it becoming too cumbersome?
I'll have a go, and Mr. Cameron, as the General Manager of Strategy and Democracy, can add to it. I think this is fundamentally the role of council through representation reviews, to think about how do you have the best set of arrangements that reflect the voices of different communities. So, in addition to Hira Taunga Tākotō Noa, you made decisions to have a focus on Flaxmere with some different arrangements about reflecting the importance that this council had on that as a community of interest. And your point's very good. Like, this is never going to stay static. And why you're going to do this on a regular basis through the arrangements you set every 3 years in a triennium and every 6 years when you do a representation review. I think I'd make the observation that councillors with advice from officers have to think about what are the voices and perspectives you most want to hear and where do they best come from. I'd make the point that, again, it's not this council, but it's enduring, and also in 2021, a significant activity that was undertaken by this council with the community, a wide range of partners. I think you were there, Councillor Harvey, resolved that looking out 50 years from now, what was the thing that Hastings most wanted to be known for? And the number one proposition that was agreed was how we care for our tamariki and rangatahi. And I think, Councillor Nixon, you found it quite an interesting experience when, as part of that process, we were very conscious that in determining those propositions, we ultimately had people, councillors and people in the community present those propositions to a dragon's den of intermediate age school children.
That's right.
Because they are the ones that are going to be here in 50 years' time, as opposed to us that are leading today. So it's not easy. I mean, you're looking to apply judgments that balances effective governance, which is the point you're raising about the size of that, with how do you reflect in terms of the role that you take as elected officials, getting the perspectives from groups, whether it's physical locations like Flaxmere or population groups that inform the role that you're elected to do, which is to make the best decisions for everybody in the community.
And a very, very simple answer in terms of representation is we already have a relationship, we already have a youth council, we already have a relationship where they are sitting amongst us in many parts of our work. This is the opportunity to strengthen that. That is the conversation I want you to focus on today. Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Your Worship, and again, thank you for a great presentation. And also a great letter to our Mayor. But I do note that you request in it voting rights on subcommittees, which differs from the recommendation. So I'm just interested to know why that changed.
Thank you, Councillor. May I defer that question to Mr. Cameron, if that's possible? Thank you.
Subcommittees, standing committees.
Yes, sorry, through you, Madam Chair, I made the mistake of trying to do two things at once, so I didn't quite hear the end of the question.
I'll ask it again. In the letter from the Youth Council, it requests voting rights on subcommittees. The recommendations also include standing committees. I'm just interested why that is.
I think for the purpose of this, so really a standing committee is a committee that council sets up for the duration of your triennium. So they're really all standing committees. I think it's a bit of a norm. We tend to think of the whole of council committees as standing committees, but all your committees are standing committees because you intend for them to stand for the duration of your triennium and be under your standing orders, I suppose, that you adopt for the triennium. So I think the Youth Council's aspirations are to have that, I guess, maturing and high level participation in the triennium. So that's why the report's just framed to that council may appoint to its subcommittees and committees.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before today, I understood this was the first time we were going to have Youth Council on our committees, and I accept, Mr. Cameron, your sense of committees is more broad than standing committees, so I support that within the recommendations, staying as committees. Are you able to shed more light on the sense or on the details that we've had youth on our committees before? I'm not sure where to.
Emma, Could you just go through the committees that we have representation now from our youth
Sorry,
council?
Your Worship, I meant historically.
Oh,
So
I see.
before today, I thought this was a brand new, really exciting, first in the world type thing. But I understand that 20, 25 years ago, we had our youth council representatives remunerated and on our standing committees.
So yes, through you, Your Worship. So Julia Hayden-Carr, who is currently the Deputy Chief Executive at the Hawke's Bay Regional Recovery Agency, saw the media reporting and advised officers, just for the sake of history, that in 1999 she was the chair of the Hastings Youth Council. That one of the jobs of the chair and the deputy chair at the time, and this had been in place for 5 years under Mayor Jeremy Dwyer, at the point that she was the chairperson, was they were full members of the Community Services Committee with voting rights, and was paid the sum of $100 a meeting in 1999. 130, sorry, and made the point that one of the most difficult things she had to deal with as a young person was having to pay secondary tax on that, given she had a weekend job at Farmers. So it's not, so clearly back in the 1990s, those arrangements were in place with the council at the time in terms of the chair and deputy chair having voting rights on committees that existed at the time and remunerated to play that role.
And may I ask another clarity question? And so my understanding is today's decision is about we may. There will be another decision making about the how, and that will only hold true till the next elections, October next year. The new council at that time will then rearrange their own committees and their membership. So this decision today is a may decision, as in we may do it, and only for the next 12 months.
The balance of the term of the triennium, and as through you, Your Worship, as you've made the point, it is for each elected council to determine those arrangements for each triennium.
Council wasn't wanting to progress with the recommendations, you would change that recommendation, because we need a clear direction. We've got the young people, they've brought in a proposal, we either adopt a proposal or we don't. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have several questions I'd like to ask to whoever feels they can best answer them. Firstly, okay, it's coming out of operational budget, but do we have an estimate of what it's going to cost? Because this effectively will be paid for by ratepayers. I haven't gone through and worked out figures, Madam Chair, because I'm not sure of the council decision or level of participation, but I would be surprised if the budget for the remainder of the triennium exceeded $15,000. That's great. Secondly, what are the eligibility requirements to be on the youth council? Age, location, anything like that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. The criteria to be on the Hastings Youth Council is that you either live or go to school in the Hastings district, and the age range that we consider is between 15 and 21 years old.
15 and 21. So do people have to leave when they're outside? For instance, if they get older than that, do they have to leave the youth council because they're no longer eligible because they're outside that age group?
That's right, yes.
That's an interesting situation. So,
Well, councillors, I'm sorted. I'm sorted.
So what will happen if a youth councillor is appointed to one of these committees and then exceeds that age grouping? Will they have to leave, and will there be a replacement automatically?
Through you, Your Worship. We haven't had that situation as yet, and we'd work through that process if it came to light.
And just a question for those that are standing from the youth council. a matter of curiosity, are any of you ratepayers?
Order, Your Worship, I think that's inappropriate given the debate.
Right, I managed to
Let's
ask.
focus the questions on the recommendations. Thank you. Councillor Teo Skipworth.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the recommendations. Thank you.
I'll just check if there's any further questions, please. Councillor Sholem.
Actually, I'm waiting to second.
Oh,
No further questions. Councillor Lawson, did you have any further questions?
I did have a question. It's just occurred to me, recommendation B, I'm a little bit confused. It seems ambiguous to me. That council resolved that it may appoint members of the Hastings District Council Youth Committee to council committees and subcommittees. My understanding is that we already may, but we want to enact that. Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. So in principle, there's actually no need for this council meeting today because in law, council can appoint people to its, unelected people to its committees and subcommittees if you feel they have the requisite skills and experience to add value. I think given that there's been a formal approach to council and it's a situation for council wishes to engage with, so that's why I've framed the resolution that you made, and then if you resolve in that fashion, you may direct the Chief Executive to amend your allegations, which would specify the youth membership.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Harvey?
Nobody else? Just occurred to me, how does the selection work for who is the representation on the particular committees?
Once again, point of order, Your Worship. I think that is going
That is
beyond.
something-
No, sorry.
Going beyond today's paper. Today's paper is.
Well, that is because it
So
comes down
thank you. I
to.
will accept the question. Thank you,
Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Thank you.
Emma, could you just explain, because the team will have already worked this through how they're going to allocate people to various areas and they're already doing that. So perhaps you could just remind us of how that works.
Can you just repeat the question again for me, please?
How will the selection take place, or how is it decided which youth council representative sits on each of the standing committees and the subcommittees? Is it what they currently are, or does that change? Is that a decision that the youth council makes, or is it in partnership or with a part of council?
Through you, Madam Chair. This is an operational question that we will finalise the details of how we would select our young people if this was to pass and they were able to have a vote. But at the moment, we are thinking that we would like to offer that to any young people that come back for a second term. So they've already had 1 year of experience being on the Youth Council. And so it's more for the leadership team, where they've had 1 year of experience seeing how our youth council works before they put their hand up to be on a committee or a subcommittee. Through that process, we would make sure that young people really understand the commitment that would be required of them, and that we'd get the support from both their schools, because they may need to have time off school, and also a commitment from their parents that they are in support of their young people attending those meetings that may be during school time.
Thank you. So we have a mover, Councillor Teo Skipworth. We have a seconder, Councillor Sholem. I'll now move into debate, and so the mover, I'll take your cordial first. Thank you. And to our Youth Council, you either may stand there or you may take a seat as we go into debate. Thank you for your great presentation.
Yeah, well done.
Councillor Kerr, can I ask you to be seated?
Through you, Your Worship, as a Māori woman who has had to fight to be heard and for our rights under Te Reo Waitangi that we are still waiting to be enacted, it wouldn't be remiss of me to have a knee-jerk reaction to allowing somebody the right of way to be able to add value to this council table. So I 100% support, 1000% support the recommendations. And I just want to take a bit of time to talk about why. A lot of my fellow colleagues have said they have no life experience. They may not have life experience, but what they make up for with their lack of life experience is optimism. Life experience often gives us a whole lot of scepticism. And our rangatahi come with a whole lot of optimism. Legislation says that you have to be 18 to vote. Now, those same halls of power tell us that if you are 16, and don't go off and do this, but you can have sex. So when we say that they need to wait their turn, the halls of power say they are old enough to have sex, but they are not old enough to make decisions. The implications of doing what I've just said means they will procreate. So the halls of power say at 16 it's okay for you to procreate. They are leaders in inclusivity. You saw the diverse range of rangatahi that stood there. And I have heard from fellow councillors say, what if this diverse range of our community want to have a say? For me, succession is key. Send your diverse range of community through to the Youth Council. There was another subset of the community, the latter, and what if they want to have the same rite of path? Well, to me, that's not succession. They are leaders in climate, and our climate change, which affects us now and will heavily affect them in the future. They are leaders in technology, going by the answer they gave to Councillor Dixon. And I think I'd like to leave with, as a Māori wahine who is yet to have all of her rights under Te Tiriti o Waitangi enacted, I 1000% endorse the recommendations. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you, Councillor Te Skipworth. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Worship. I feel like I'm going to take the wind out of people's sails here today, because I'm going to say when you remove assumptions and you remove fear and you remove the word youth, what's before us today is actually quite boring. As Mr. Cameron has highlighted for us, it's already within our power to do this. In fact, we could have just gone on and got it done. This isn't even particularly innovative by the sounds of things, because we've done it before in the past. We as governors, through formally adopting the youth strategy, which our youth have highlighted for us, have already identified vital expertise that we're missing in our decision making. That's why we adopted the youth strategy. And in fact, it's expertise that we need to honour under the oaths we've taken to uphold the Local Government Act. As was highlighted in the report, the Act states that we are required to promote the well-being of communities in the present, but also for the future. Additionally, Schedule 7 allows for the appointment of unelected members on our committees if we deem them as having knowledge and expertise that we require. And I'm going to look at one of those unelected members in the corner. Sorry for signalling you out there, John, although not now. At the core of today's decision is the proposal as to whether or not we grant our youth councillors voting rights on our standing and subcommittees. And I have to admit, I was wavering a bit on the standing committees until I heard what Mr. Cameron said around the fact that they're actually all technically standing committees. This is not about handing over control or all the decision making. It's about including an important voice in the discussions that are already being led. Elected members retain full control over the creation of our committees, the delegations we make to those committees, and the membership of those committees. We are not handing over rights as elected members. We retain that control. All this proposal does is ensures that we hear from the very people who will inherit the outcomes of the decisions that we make here. Youth Council members, if they are appointed with voting rights to standing committees, will make up just 5% of the overall vote. Their input will be meaningful, it will be recorded in our minutes, but it will not overpower decision making. I can see Her Worship tapping her watch. I do have a couple more points to make, Your Worship. I promise I'll stay within the allocated amount of time. Some have raised concerns over whether or not youth who aren't yet ratepayers should have a say. But again, I will highlight the Local Government Act. Section 10 makes it clear that we are all here not just to represent ratepayers. It is the well-being of the communities of the present and the future. We serve the entire community, including those who do not pay rates. We're not handing over control. We're building a future that serves all generations. One objection I've heard is that the youth councillors don't have enough experience. I think Councillor Skipworth has highlighted and actually no, the chair highlighted that beautifully with his response around it not being purely about the passage of time. Experience is a reflection of the world we live in today. Every generation has its own unique challenges, perspectives and strengths. We can't understand those perspectives of our youth today. We're too far removed. We need their expertise. Experience isn't just about age, it's about perspective. Now, I've heard the argument. Some have asked, where do we draw the line? If we include youth, should we include every other group? Different nationalities, different ethnicities, a disabled community?
Councillor Shine, can you wrap it up, please? Thank you. I've got a lot of other speakers waiting to speak.
The difference here is that youth are underrepresented not because of lack of interest, but because they're legally barred from standing for election until they turn 18. But that doesn't invalidate their views within our community and our needs to cater for them. This is about addressing a fundamental gap in our representation. I couldn't be more thrilled to support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Councillor Butto.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Nixon, did you?
No,
You're happy to wait?
Yep.
Fair enough. I'd just like to congratulate the Youth Council on quite an impressive job interview. Well done. Well. And no matter the outcome here, I think you can be proud of your conduct in bringing this to us. So congratulations. To me, it's a reasonably simple thing. We have subcommittees that are about policy formulation, they're about bringing views together, they're about sending things to council, to bigger standing committees for sign-off. Getting more views, getting more input, getting more ideas around the table is just genuinely helpful. It is the right place for it. To date, we've had youth councillors on these subcommittees. They've contributed, they've turned out, they've done the work. They can't vote. And to be fair, I think that is a gap. And I think if you are there doing the work, you should have the say. They still need to get signed off by standing committees. They still need to get signed off by council. So the risk is low. And while I'm not yet convinced on standing committees and larger committees, I look forward to discussing that in the future when, should this recommendation pass and that gets brought back to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to be clear, this is standing committees, P&M, strategy and recovery, and subcommittees. So not council, but that is what this recommendation refers to.
In that case, just to clarify, 100%, because we will still need to sign off on the actual appointees to each of those committees. There will still be this paper coming back to council in the future, and my future intentions on what I decide will be for that future council meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wholeheartedly support this recommendation. So many of our decisions are what I have now starting to call mokopuna decisions. Are decisions we're making for our grandchildren and maybe their grandchildren. And I think the sooner we can get wise young people around the table with us, helping us make decisions and voting, the better. And the thinking that by having younger people sitting around most of our committees would help encourage young people to vote, I think is a complete added bonus. I understand once people vote at a young age, they continue to vote through the rest of their lives. Those that don't vote as a young person may be living in a household that's never voted. The chances of connecting and getting them engaged to vote is more difficult. So I'm delighted to support the recommendations as they stand. Thank you.
Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. To be elected as a community representative, councillors stand for election. They spend time and money canvassing for votes for support. They finance their campaigns, put up billboards, print and distribute leaflets, door knock and attend campaign meetings and so on. This proposal breaches the very basis of our democracy and is a backdoor method of getting on council. In fact, I would go so far as to say those that are successful will be getting, in fact, 2 votes. Votes as a ward, as a resident of their particular ward, and another vote, effectively, as a youth councillor.
What? No. Please explain, Councillor Nixon. I think that's...
We're not...
No, I just need to explain that, if you can clarify that point. Mr Cameron, 2 votes. What does that actually mean, Councillor Nixon?
What it means is you're getting 2 bites of the cherry in terms of influence, because you are influencing it through the youth council position and also as an ordinary resident of a ward.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, you don't have to accept it. That's my view. Not only will these councillors be, these individuals be unelected, I think the proposal actually breaches the very basis of the ward system on which this council is constructed. It also circumvents the electoral cycle and process. The student council is, and in my opinion, should remain an advisory group, which I think they welcome. 17-year-olds are under the age of eligibility to vote in New Zealand. Somehow we're circumventing that process and accelerating them to a position that others can't attain. Why the urgency? They could stand for council anyway if they're 18 next year, because we have an election next year. And that is their choice to stand or not to stand. What happens when youth council...
Point of order, Your Worship.
Eh?
Point of order, Your Worship. There seems to be a lack of clarity around the role of an elected member and a committee member. Could we please get clarification from the officers?
This is not coming off my time, I hope.
Sorry?
I hope this is not coming off my time.
I don't think we need to worry about getting a clarity. Thank you. Carry on. You've got 2 more minutes.
Thank you.
You've got less than 2 minutes.
So one of the questions I ask myself is what happens to the youth councillors during exams, which they have to attend, and sports events, which they have a certain compulsion to attend? What happens when these commitments clash with our own council commitments? I see absenteeism, which can already be a problem, as you know, Your Worship, getting worse. We are a diverse group of representatives with a wealth of experience in life, business, community, bringing up children and so much more. 17-year-olds generally do not have any of that experience, I would suggest. They've hardly scratched the surface of life. This proposal dilutes the representation of those who pay the bill, the ratepayers. I brought that up before you cut me off, but I still believe it. We are a financial organisation, whether we like it or not, with $100 million worth of spending. And we are acutely aware around this table, because most of us pay rates, and if we don't pay rates, we pay rent, which pays rates. Being on council committee is not the end game. It's just part of the process of preparing or making council decisions. The issue of how old does one have to be to have the experience, the qualifications, the knowledge and the wisdom to be fit to represent the community is debatable, but certainly it's not a 5-year-old. It's not a 10-year-old. In my opinion, it's not a 15-year-old. I think 18 is the right choice. This is the choice that has been made by government over and over again over the years, that at that point people start to have the experience needed to contribute meaningfully. I think 18 is the correct age for membership on this council, and whatever we do, that should remain. If members of the Youth Council want to be councillors, as I said before, they can offer themselves up next year when they turn 18 and stand for election. And I really challenge them to do so if they don't succeed, or even if they do with this proposal. They should prepare policies for examination by those whose votes they want, because we all do that, and I don't see why youth councillors shouldn't have to do it as well if they want us to be a part of the council process. They should put up their billboards, print pamphlets, knock on doors, campaign, and in 12 months' time, if they're 18 or older, they will be able to do all these things as of right without going through this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Can I just pick up one point that you've raised?
That's one.
You just need to realise that we already have representation of youth council sitting at the table with our committees.
The issue.
Excuse me, point, sit, thank you. I need to tell you, we have our youth council working on our committees now. They're asking
They
to
don't have
strengthen
voting
their
rights, do they?
position with voting
I
rights.
don't believe
Thank
they have
you.
voting rights, do they?
Thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Don't answer the question.
Mā te toiohi e poi poi, mai te toiohi e whakangungu, tāria te wā, waiho mā te tangata e mihi, koena te tohu o te rangatira. Let our youth nurture and grow. Let them develop wisdom and strength. With the passage of time, the acknowledgement of our people will take root, shaping the leaders of tomorrow. It is this, the process, the true leadership is born. Your worship, youth involvement in local governance is critical. Aroa mai. And I'm aware of my time, that's why I'm a little bit nervous, Your Worship. Going last. Granting students from Hastings District Council, Youth Council, formal voting rights in Hastings District Council committees needs careful consideration. We must consider their views and opinions in a meaningful way. However, as we are responsible adults and elected members of our community, it is not only the duty and our responsibility to provide tiakitanga, protection, te poipuia, te kākano, nurture and development, while upholding democratic processes and the principles of te tiriti o Waitangi. Can I say this is not about age, for me, of our young men and women, and how you can monopolise the corridor in question time, or actually it's about the substance of a diverse range of thinking of our individuals that can be heard, understood, and included. Their experiences and skills that they bring to the table, the critical thinking, the troubleshooting, the real talk that can only come from lived experiences, trials and tribulations. Your worship, I can testify to many of these. Aotearoa has come a long way and prides itself on supporting a range of social and political issues that are highlighted and reflecting progressive and enlightened values and protocols. The Chamber holds Te Tiriti o Waitangi. It holds it up high. It refers to it many times. I was going to spiel on about how women were the first ones in the world to vote in this country, and I had a whole list of data of how many years this happened. The landmark legislation of universal suffrage for women allowed women of over 21 years old, and today we have Māori wards. I know at this time there is much consideration in regards to the age moving to 16 years of age. And if Nā te tangata I whakai, if the people of this land agree, then so be it. Like I said, Your Worship, this is not about age. Your Worship, I have woven a tapestry of facts here. Like I said, it's not about age. I want to highlight that we're currently going through some significant times. Let's not talk about the cyclone. Let's talk about the rebuild back better and stronger, our fiscal situation, and more importantly, the Takitumu Māori ward situation. The democratic process is guided by local and general elections ensures that those with the right to vote carry the responsibility and of the representation of the entire community. Rangatahi can only represent a small cohort of that community. Through elections, we choose leaders who have the matured skills and lived experiences to navigate complex decisions. High school students, while skilled, passionate, articulate, and experienced, they still are in the process of developing these attributes. Granting them voting rights in the council committees bypasses the growth and the readiness that the democratic system protects. Their participation should focus on learning how decisions are made and the understanding of the weight of those decisions, so that they are prepared to contribute meaningfully when the time comes to vote in a general or a local election.
Councillor,
They do have a
Councillor
platform.
Hickey, can I ask you to stick to the recommendations? Thank you.
They do have a platform, Your Worship, of which their voices are heard at the table. They have the ability to ask questions. No, they don't have the ability to vote. The art of tuakana teina refers to the co-design. Youth council members and experienced councillors create that supportive environment for youth to grow. By building these relationships, engaging in community initiatives, young people can develop leadership. They should start by focusing on learning and grow participation in the relationship building, ensuring that young people are ready to contribute when they are ready to voting age. If that's 16, then let it be. Your Worship, I am getting towards the end. In conclusion, while youth engagement is essential, formal voting rights in council should be reserved for those that demonstrate their knowledge, skill and understanding, resilience and fortitude, can walk the walk, talk the talk, but more importantly, be elected by the people for the people. For that is what democracy is about. In Te Ao Māori, we invite our rangatei to sit on the paitapu, our sacred court, so that they can listen to the kōrero, lessons of the day, so that they can hear the pūrākau, the historical narrative, feel the mauri, the life essence, and feel the wrath of korowai, manaki, and aroha, the cloak of honour, prestige, and compassion. But we will never let our rangatahi do the role of a rangatira. We won't put our young leaders to the slaughter of our peers unless they can demonstrate their unwavering commitment, competency of skill, and the endorsement of our people.
Thank you,
We
Councillor
don't use our children for the political leverage. Ma pango ma whero, ka uti ai te mahi, by the virtue of unity, we will overcome. Your
Kia ora.
Worship, that concludes my kōrero.
Kia ora.
Tēnā
Thank you,
tātou.
Councillor Hickey. Councillor Monteperto Hendry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a comment and maybe a spanner. To the Youth Council, you're quite clearly intelligent, driven, fearless. You're high achievers who love a challenge and obviously embrace opportunities. You represent almost 50% of some communities. You bring fresh perspectives. You bring another layer of diversity and inclusion. You bring long-term thinking. The consequences of today's decisions, as you have so eloquently said, impact you and when we are here no longer. You can or may provide an organic succession plan and increase civic representation and engagement. Nelson Mandela said children of today are leaders of tomorrow, and what I was going to come here and say was patience, young grasshopper. However, I have never been patient. I had my first diploma at 18, my first child at 18, my first mortgage at 19. I never listened to anybody, and I'm standing here right now probably not listening. So, I hope you're listening to me. Don't do anything that I've done. It's the hard way. So what I'd like to do is move an amendment, and this is following kōrero I've heard from every single one or a majority of our councillors. I like A, B, C and D.
Councillor Peter Henry, I'm going to take the motion on the table. We've talked to the motion on the table. If we lose that motion, we'll come back to your amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Upperwood.
Kia ora, Your Worship. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd just like to acknowledge Youth Council and your fantastic supporters here today. I'm in total support of these recommendations this afternoon, and there are three key reasons why. Peter Tonga Hastings has demonstrated its leadership with true representation around this table, and I'm really fortunate to be one of those as a Takitimu Ward councillor, where this council has striven really hard to have good representation around this table, and this is just the next step for me. The second reason is, and Chris, you pointed out, Flaxmere, half of Flaxmere is under the age of 25. This is another key reason that we need to actually strive to have our young people be at the table. Māori have a very youthful population, so those voices must come here as well. The third reason for me is I have seen the capability of these youth councillors as the chair of the Community and Wellbeing Subcommittee. They have proven to me that you're diligent, you read your papers, you speak up on behalf of your young, youthful population. So I congratulate you, total support. It's a no-brainer. Thank you very much.
Kia ora. Councillor Dixon, last speaker.
Last speaker. Last speaker. Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I didn't realise I was going to be in that position.
No, we'll come back to that.
Fine. Thank you. Look, everyone around this table has been democratically elected, and that gives them the right to vote. Heretoga Takitinoa, they get their right to vote through the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. The Risk and Audit team are qualified professionals and have directorships, and they can only make a recommendation at Risk and Audit on their vote. They don't vote in standing committees. Our youth councillors don't pay rates. They've probably got NCA level 2 or level 3 qualifications, and most of them are not old enough to vote in a general election. They already have a voice around the table to influence our decisions, and they should respect us that we can make a vote after listening to them. They would say they add diversity to our decision making. So would the Multicultural Association, so would the Business Association, so would Grey Power, so would Federated Farmers. And they all come and speak at submissions at the annual plan to get their point across. They actually trust us. My advice to you would be, concentrate on your academic prowess, get yourselves as qualified as high as possible, and there's still the opportunity to stand at council even when you've got grey hair or no hair. Your Worship, this is going to be close. I'm going to request under standing orders a recorded vote, which means everyone is asked individually to vote for the motion or against the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon, that will happen.
Thank you for
I'll
that.
have show of hands, thank you.
No, it's not a show of hands, Your Worship.
Yep.
It's a recorded vote, and at standing orders it's possible to have. Everyone goes round and says yes or no, and it's recorded, and then it ends up in the minutes. That's standing orders, and it may be clarified.
Thank you to include that.
Thank you. And this decision, why I asked for that, will have consequences for the future. And so it needs to be on record how each individual councillor voted. Thank you.
Right, just before I go back to the mover of the motion, I'll have my say. And can I just say how honoured I have been to be the mayor and work with so many outstanding rangatahi. I have a very privileged position because they come and visit me and we have a drink and a biscuit. And I hear their views and I hear their future and I hear their aspirations for this country and for this city and for this district. And my goodness, how lucky we are to have their views shared. But it needs to be more than just shared with me. It needs to be shared at the top table. Their views, everything we do at this top table is intergenerational. Intergenerational. We don't make decisions for just today. We make decisions for how we're going to manage the future, how the debt is going to be repaid, who will repay it, and how we will repay it. Those are the decisions that we make at this table. And yet we're burdening future generations with this debt, with this recovery, with this rebuild, with this managing growth. And we have to manage and understand, and they have to help us. And their vision and their aspirations, they are incredibly smart. And what Councillor Teo Skipworth said about positivity, my goodness, I feel uplifted after every meeting. Because they don't just come with their problems. They don't just come with the state of the nation, and my goodness, it's hard time to be in government. They come with their answers. They come with the way, how, and through. And that is what I have been inspired by them. To have their voice sitting alongside our rangatira who have the life skills, who can learn and be mentored by those rangatira, who will stand in future local government. My goodness, we need people to stand in this very, very challenging time. It's not an easy time, as I said, to be in government. And we have their views, and the thing that I can be most proud of is when we allowed them to be on our subcommittees. Why on earth we didn't give them voting rights, I'll never know. Just because we didn't think. And it's as simple as that. Why on earth they weren't on the standing committees? Just because no one suggested it. It is simple as that. This isn't rocket science. This isn't bigger than Ben-Hur or harder than anything else to work out. This is about simply making sure that our rangatahi get a say and actually feel empowered to have a vote. And at the moment they bring their voices to the subcommittee, but nobody asks them how they vote. And that's what's so critically important in this today. So I wholeheartedly support the recommendations before us, and I wish to thank the leadership of our young people. And I hope that one day I will come and visit here and I will see some of you sitting at this table, and I will feel incredibly proud. And I will make sure we have youth at our table. Councillor Teo Skipworth, I give you the opportunity to do a right of reply.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've heard from my fellow councillors around the table, there's been kōrero about tuakana taina. Now, tuakana taina isn't about an age limit of who's the tuakana and who's the taina. And I've sat in the youth council room and they have at times become my tuakana. I am also thinking about Te Tiriti o Waitangi and about one day when my rights are enabled and enacted and the rangatahi are not afraid to honour Te Tiriti o Waitangi. At the LGNZ conference, the average age for local elective members is 65. Average age is 65. Yep. To me, that's a problem. The leaders of this current, there are leaders in this country that are making decisions for me as a Māori that are detrimental. They have lived experience. They have been around for a long time. They have sat at governance tables on boards, and they are deemed as leaders because they have lived experience. So I'm going to leave a passage of wording that I found from Papa Moana Jackson, who was one of the founders of the document Mātiki Mai, which is constitutional transformation for our current country that is yet and hopefully to be adopted. This is what he said about our rangatahi when they were forming that constitution. I think one of the most important kaupapa decisions we made in the organising stage was to hear what rangatahi had to say and to ensure the process of hearing their voice was led by rangatahi. I went to their planning hui. There were only 12 rangatahi, but they were just stunning. I didn't go any more for that reason. We just left them to it. So I think a whakatauki that fits with Papa Moana's kōrero is he kākanoa hau I ruia mai I rangiatia. I am a seed born of greatness. He kākanoa rātou hoki I ruia mai I rangiatia. They are seeds born of greatness. Kia ora.
So we have a motion on the table, we have a mover and seconder. I am going to ask each and every one for their vote, starting with you, Deputy Mayor Councillor Kerr. Your vote, please, for or against the motion? For. Councillor Heke.
Against the motion.
Councillor Barrow.
For.
Councillor Fowler.
Against.
Councillor Harvey.
Against.
Councillor Teo Skipworth.
For.
Councillor Apatu.
For.
Councillor Sholem. For. Councillor Corbyn.
Against.
Councillor Montepurti Hendry. Councillor Lawson. Councillor Dixon. Councillor Nixon. Mayor for. Thank you. We'll just add those up. Thank you. Might be a casting vote, maybe. Okay, so that's 7 for, 7 against. The mayor has the casting vote. The vote is carried. Can I thank everybody for coming in today? Can I thank you, councillors? There was a very good debate and a very difficult debate. And there will be more work done now together. And now we'll break for tea. And all the very best. Thank you for all of our visitors for joining us today. Can I invite everybody back? Elwyn, would you mind inviting everybody back? How amazing to see the principals of the schools.
That was a spine-tingling heartbeat.
Sorry, I'm just going to.
Welcome back, everybody. Can we resume the meeting? Please be seated. All right, welcome back, everybody. Meeting resumed. Return to item 7, please, the summary of recommendations of the Risk and Assurance Committee held on the 5th of August. Welcome to our Chair, Independent Chair of Risk and Assurance, Mr. John Nicol. Wonderful to have you with us, John. And you may like to take us through this paper.
Thank you.
We love independence.
I'm not, I don't need that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Kia ora, and thank you. How do I follow that? I'd like to say 30 years ago that reminded, or 40 years ago or more, reminded me of me, but it didn't because I probably wouldn't have been there. I would have been doing other things at school, probably with the principal, but that was outstanding, and it was really good to see democracy in action, and all the times I have been coming here for meetings, etc. That was one of the more passionate ones, but that's great. I was watching the people around, and they were actually enthralled because they probably hadn't seen how it actually rolls sometimes. So that was awesome. So Risk and Assurance, I've been doing this for a decade. This is my last, next month is my last meeting, and this will be the last time I'll be addressing you. So I just wanted to say it's been a privilege to be part of this organization. You've always treated me really well, and I've really enjoyed it. But I'll whip through a few slides, and then Bruce, as he always does, and Regan just mop up behind me. So I'm just going to go through the slides, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can read that. Look, I always class the Risk and Assurance Committee as your technical support team. So we have a pretty standing agenda of items we look at, but frequently we like to take the attitude that we're open for particularly technical stuff. If you want to run things like cybersecurity, treasury, other technical stuff, that's what we're there for, right? But specifically, our works program, we usually look at treasury oversight, which is a growing issue. Health and safety, we let the team do a lot of deep diving at the risk and assurance. We go through insurance, which is an ever-increasing issue for council. The year-end annual report, we do oversight for that, particularly around the numbers. Cybersecurity, which has been a passion of the worship over the last 3 or 4 years to keep an eye on that. The asset management planning and specific projects. And I just as a reminder, your balance sheet, which you're about to see with your annual report, the council's assets now are bigger than $3 billion, right? So I'll conclude these slides in a minute with my plea around that, but this organization is $3 billion. I suggest by far the biggest organization in the Bay. So with that comes a lot of responsibility, right? Cool, and I have said to this forum before, I consider your risk management policy and framework, some of the best I've ever seen. And I mean that across corporates as well. It is outstanding. And your insurers expect you to have a risk framework. The banks absolutely do. And like I said, I think this is first class, and it allows management a policy framework when they sit around monthly and talk about risk. They've got a policy, how they can run projects through. And this has evolved over the years, but it is absolutely first class. So your framework at the top of the tree is really solid. It is, and as I said, it gives management great guidelines, and Bruce and Regan will touch on what we discussed at the last risk and assurance, but I just wanted to give you my independent assurance that it's some of the best, I rank it in the top 2 or 3 that I've seen. This one you need bifocals to be able to read this, but effectively, everybody, you talk about tier 1 risks, right? There's probably 500 risks associated with this. We could all stub our toe walking out of the room, but what we've tried to focus on at Risk and Assurance is what are the 10 or 12 key big picture risks, like climate, like getting access to contractors to do all your work. And those are the risks we like to talk about at Risk and Assurance. And if any of those really concern us, we escalate it to either the Ops and Monitoring Committee or full council. But I think where we've matured in the last 2 or 3 years, it's all about emerging risks. Because you've got a static risk register that says, here's the 10 things that keep us awake at night sometimes, but the world's not flat and things change and move much quicker. So we have put a real focus on at Risk and Assurance is what is emerging that we should be keeping an eye on. And it was a while ago was interest rates going way up. Now they're going way down. So those sort of things we had a real focus on. Last one more. So and I've just only got 4 slides, which is great. Where the sort of things that we're working on now is we will be supporting council next month at our Risk and Assurance to review the financial report. So we will hopefully be recommending to council that it's good to adopt, and the auditor will be at that meeting. Insurance never stops giving. We'll be reviewing our insurance. We always are assessing threat to council from earthquake. What are the 3 water changes on council's financial position, credit rating changes, and rates arrears review. So that's all pretty technical stuff, right? But we're there, and it's our job to highlight to you at this table if we have real concerns. And I just wanted to close with, and I know I've said this a million times, but at the top of the tree, the 3 real biggest picture things are, as we all know, is your capital spend. You're going to be spending a lot of money. So I'd implore you guys as governors to continue to make sure it's an efficient spend and it's the right spend. Spending $100 million a year, make sure it's the right spend. Debt levels, we've done that to death around this table and at Risk and Assurance. And I hear people here talking about we have to manage our debt, which is great because you do. And then the rates on the community are the 3rd leg of that because there's a consequence of all that spend and all that debt, and it falls on the ratepayers, unless the Crown contribute. But I think we all probably have views on how likely that is. So that's all I really wanted to cover, was to give you comfort. And my replacement is super smart. He's the guy that they wheel into court for forensic accounting and stuff. So and I'd suggest council's going to get more and more technical as you owe more money, as you spend more money, as you have long-term arrangements with contractors. So he's absolutely the right guy to follow. He's, as I said, super smart. He's on lots of councils around the country, and he's probably got a resting pulse of about 12. So he doesn't get alarmed by very much at all. So he will be outstanding. And I just wanted to give you comfort that we're there for you technically. We only have the power to recommend, and we don't wait. If there's a real code red, Bruce and the team will be sharing that with council straight away. We don't wait till the next meeting. So that's all I really wanted to say. And now these guys can do all the real stuff afterwards. So thank you. There you go.
3 minutes, yeah, I should probably just invite Regan just to take the council through particularly the recommendations that came from Risk and Assurance around update of the annual risk management policy and framework reviews.
Thank you. Thanks,
Through
Regan.
you, Your Worship. Yes, so the annual review, we didn't change an awful lot. Fundamentally, we felt the policy was still accurate, the overall policy setting. What we did do is some minor adjustments for structurally how we're managing internal committees with the executive, and that was for a bit more efficient management of day-to-day business. And then we have revised the way we're tackling the risk appetite statement. So rather than specific statements around LTP areas, that was a little hard to apply. So we've pulled it back and actually in the framework described a way of approaching setting risk appetites for projects or service areas so they can be a little bit more tailored to the specific deliverables. Because we certainly find, in talking through risk appetite around the exec table, it's very much dependent on the type of objective we're aiming for or the goal we want to deliver as to how much risk is considered acceptable at the time. So it's about tailoring that description in a way that creates a safe space for everyone to understand what's acceptable risk taking and what's not. So those are the main changes in the risk framework. And on the risk register, we've elevated the natural hazards, which was sitting at the exec table, to the top table, basically reflecting the cyclone impacts and future changes in that profile as we go forward with climate, as well as reflecting the idea of environment, social governance and cultural as an opportunity as opposed to a risk. We previously had it on the register where we sort of viewed it as a risk. That was primarily driven by mandatory non-financial reporting requirements, which are starting to be applied to large corporate organizations, and through financial institutes is becoming more of a focus for lending. But at the moment, as an organization, we're not obliged to meet those requirements. But we felt by flipping it to an opportunity, there's a way for us to look at where is the added value for council by adopting some of those non-financial reporting areas that might help us deliver our goals better and prepare us for when non-financial reporting actually becomes a requirement. So those are the main updates.
Thank you.
If anyone's got any questions.
Just to pick up on your last comment, Regan, when financial reporting becomes a requirement, have we heard about that other than just in passing? Have we heard had any direction from central government?
No, through your worship, no specific direction or even conversation that that's going to happen for local government, but it certainly is happening for central government agencies.
Is that climate disclosures?
Yes, the climate disclosures are part of non-financial disclosures, yeah. I know, just if I can add to that, Auckland City Council do have a project around climate-related disclosures, non-financial reporting. It is a very big project for them, and it's a lot of work.
Through your worship, just adding on to that, so we are beginning to see those non-financial reporting requirements starting to flow through from some of our stakeholders. So the local government funding agency, for example, is starting to. It's an obligation on them to do it, and we certainly envisage in the near future that will flow through to us as a lender of the LGFA.
Thank you, Your Worship. A quick question and then a action recommended. So the action recommended, just wondering if it would be appropriate to have a high-level workshop on how we manage risk. Because it's something that we talk about a lot, but I think unless as councillors we're sort of in, sometimes it can just be words. So I think that would be a great action if possible. And the second one is actually regarding the timing. So the recommendations of risk and assurance, 5th of August, has just got to us now, and I just want to make sure that that timing isn't delaying or holding up things within our council.
So, yeah, through your worship, to answer the question around timing, no, it doesn't hold up anything. We progress the work as we expect.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
Through your worship, that's a great idea to have that high-level risk workshop. And before I go, or I was going to suggest for the new guy, would love to do that. I just was in the far north in Kerikeri a couple of days ago, and we just actually had a risk workshop around the board table. It was at quite a high level, and it's really interesting when you talk about risk appetite or tolerance, right? There's some people that are gung-ho, and this is commercially saying, let's go and buy 20 businesses, and some people are saying, no, let's not. But if you have that grown-up discussion about, well, what really is our tolerance for risk, I think that's a really useful discussion to have, because when you go to do your planning, if you've got minimal risk in an area, then you're likely to spend more money in that area to keep the risks down. But I really think if you can have that discussion, they're really, really valuable.
John? Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Corbyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. As this is John's last meeting with us, I'd like to say a huge thank you to John. I've really enjoyed being part of the Risk and Assurance Committee. Recognise your chairmanship, which is very professional, but particularly your expertise and experience, which is current, that you bring to the meetings. And I think that's helped with your chairmanship too. You've pointed us in the right direction on a number of occasions, so thank you.
Well said. Thank you very much, Councillor Corbyn. And we have got one more risk and assurance meeting with John, so we look forward to that.
And I am putting on a morning tea before that event.
So, yeah, I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Oh, have I got a mover?
I'm happy to move.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler and Councillor Kerr and Councillor Fowler. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. No. We're moving on to item 8, Enterprise Risk Management Policy and Framework Annual Review. John, are you staying for this paper? Yes, great, thank you. Regan.
Happy to move.
We've rolled it together? Okay. Any questions on item 8? No? To have a mover, thanks. Councillor Dixon, Councillor Hickey. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. And thank you very much, John. Yes, well, I will say my thank yous at Risk and Assurance, but we've loved working with you. And as Alwyn has just said, we really appreciate your skill, knowledge and expertise. Thank you. Moving. Right, the stopping of the road alleyway between Oliphant Road and Bledisloe. I wonder how long we've been working on this project. Hello, Bruce, and welcome. As a paper in front of us, councillors, any questions on this paper? No. It's a very well-written paper, Bruce.
Happy to move.
Councillor, I've got Councillor Dixon up here.
That's fine, I'll either move or second, but just one question, Bruce. If this recommendation passes, what's the time frame for getting it all sorted?
Through Madam Chair, I think typically what we're finding is things will get done in about 6 weeks to get all of the physical closure done. And then behind that is we'll go through basically the survey process and then the land divestment. So that's a separate process, but the key thing is getting the alleyway closed, physically closed itself.
Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you. Just because I've been dealing with a particular person throughout the journey of this for 12, 18 months. How in the future can we look at speeding this entire process up?
Through Madam Chair, I think what needs to be remembered is this is a process that's defined through the Local Government Act. So there is a period of consultation around it. I think we had probably been a bit slow with the first one in Frederick Manuka. This one here is, in actual fact, is not too far off the time frame associated with that. So I think there's been some learnings that have come through to get it to where it is, and then it's the physical works to affect the closure, which is probably another 6 weeks on top of it.
Thank you. Can we just make sure, therefore, that in the future there is some way that also we are resourced up enough to actually communicate that and what are the steps, the approximate timelines and that sort of thing? I just think that might be something helpful that we can pass on as a guide, because, you know, we do get the odd approach, where is it at now? What's the, you know, what is that next step and that type of thing? And it just may help. I'm not asking for a massive paper or detail. It's just here. It's a three-step process. It starts here. We need to do this. There's potentially public works, blah, 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 to acquire a bit of land if that's what's needed. You know, that's the way we have to roll with it.
No, we'll take that as an action. That's very, very valid. And we've got Head of Comms, Mark Comms here. And so I think that that's very, very valid about making sure the community understand the process and be a part of that.
Through Madam Chair, is I will get something, I've got a report that's coming up for the October meeting, which is a sit-head review of all of the alleyways in Hastings
Oh,
District.
wonderful.
What I will do is I'll have a supplement, an additional report outlining the process for alleyway closure. So I think that then will cover off information that's clear for everybody. But we'll also, linked into that is with the sit-head review, will give you an idea of which alleyways have the potential for closure.
Yep.
I'm just fortunate at this stage that this is the last one for this year. Touch wood.
Good. Thank you very much. Do we have a mover, please? Councillor Harvey, seconded Councillor Dixon. No further questions or comments. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Bruce, and good luck with the next one. And pardon? Oh, and the next paper's Bruce. Right, stopping the paper road. Councillor Kerr, I'll get you to speak. You're across this.
Yeah. Rural Community Boards asked lots and lots of questions about this, and they endorse this, so I'm happy to move.
Thank you,
This road
Councillor
goes
Kerr.
nowhere.
Councillor Lawson, second. Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Montaputi Hendry.
Through you, your worship. Oh, sorry, standing up. I was just making sure that it was market value and that council weren't, I mean, it says we have a net loss in the order of 8.5. I'm wondering if I'm splitting hairs or just
Thank
pursue.
you.
Sorry, Bruce, thank you.
Through Madam Chair, there's about a net loss of 8,500 in terms of the survey costs and the consultation process associated with it. The land itself is worth, I think, roughly about 15,000. It's got no true or intrinsic value for the road network. It's a portion of land that is well and truly isolated. From what I had been able to ascertain, it was part of an old coach road. Over the years, there's portions of it that have basically disappeared, so it actually sits landlocked anyway. The party interested in purchasing it is the owner of the surrounding land.
Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'll put that. Do we have a mover and a seconder? Yes, I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much, Bruce. Right, moving on to item 11. This is the amendment to the Climate Action Joint Committee Terms of Reference. Welcome to Graham. Maybe I ask the committee members, Councillor Kerr and Councillor Montaputo Hendry, if you want to speak to this paper.
The summary of the amendments are quite clear in the paper. There's nothing in there that raises concern. It is simply streamlining and making the terms of reference much more effective. I do have one action I would like to be picked up, please, though, and is that there's a presentation to the Rural Community Board on what climate action looks like for Hastings District Council.
Excellent. So take that as an action. Thank you for the team.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Second. Councillor, yes. I'll put those recommendations. No further comments. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Right, moving on to item 12. The appointment of Heretaunga Takatono Standing Committee, a new committee member that has been nominated, put forward. Louise, is Louise here? Sorry. Craig. Thank you, Craig. Second. Mr. Api Robin, and we met Api at the last Heretaunga Takatono Standing Committee. Thank you, Louise. The Heretaunga Takatono. Yes, thank you. Is there any questions about this additional member to Heretaunga Takatono? No? Did you want to add anything to the paper, Louise?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? No, we have a mover, councillor Teo Skipworth, councillor Apatu second. No further questions or comments. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Now we have Louise also with their proposed amendment to schedule of meetings.
Happy to move, Your Worship.
Thank you, councillor Kerr. Second, councillor Butto. Any questions about the change? No? Okay, I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Now we look at moving into public excluded part of this agenda today. Can I just ask Mr Cameron if he could carefully explain to us why these items should be in public excluded part of today's agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. There's two items recommended to be heard in public exclusion today. Both items relate to potential divestment of council assets. So both papers traverse what's currently commercially sensitive information, and it's recommended it's appropriate to protect council's potential negotiation positions going forward. So accordingly, it's recommended that both matters be heard in public exclusion.
Thank you. Councillor Sholem. Thank you. Councillor Hickey.
I read a second, and if you'd like, I can close with kara kia since we're closing off the public meeting, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Nā reira, e tuki mihi ki a tātou i tēnei wā, i te waka whare ki hea, a tātou nei kaupapa e pāna ki a tātou nei hapore, nā reira, ka tuku ka mihi ki te atua. E tātou ka muti o tā tātou nei mahi tēnei wā, nā reira, kia tātou katoa, te ato whāo tō tātou ariki ai ukuraiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhi ngātai i tanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, amene.
So, sorry, just need to put the vote. So, thank you very much, Councillor Hickey. But can I move from the chair? Seconder, please. Councillor Sholem. Oh, you did. Put the vote, please. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you to our community who have joined us today, and thank you for sharing in the debate, councillors, for an item that was really important to many people in our community, particularly our rangatahi, and so thank you for your input into that debate. Thank you to our community, and we'll see you again soon. Mā te wā. Kia ora.